Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time in your day to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about EDH Cards Under $1. This is part 10, which is super wild to me, and I actually already have like 11 and 12 planned, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's just so many cool cards that you can run in Commander that are just not very expensive, which is awesome. Just proving that Commander does not have to be expensive. Also, you may or may not hear Zelda hysterically crying outside my door. I do not know what it is. She is like needs to be by me right now, but I'm nervous about letting them in here because they'll just like touch everything, and then I don't like having them with my camera out, you know what I mean? So I promise I'm not a bad cat. Very excited to be hanging out with you guys and chatting about this. I really enjoy chatting about cards that are a little bit cheaper. I always think that's really enjoyable. And you know what? Let me just let her in here and maybe she won't cause trouble. We'll see. Hold on. Okay, I just opened my door, so we'll see how she does. Okay, cool. So the first card that I want to talk about today is Vrin. Is that how you say it? Wingmare? I'm not 100% sure how to say that, but this card is awesome. So it is a 3 mana 2/1 with flying, and then she says non-creature spells cost... She is flying, and then she's... Alright, and this card is awesome. So it says non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. Now just note that this does impact you, so I would just be potentially wary about where you're putting this card in your deck and making sure, you know, if you're running a ton of non-creature spells, this might not be the best card for you. But if you're playing a very aggressive creature-based deck, this is a really solid card to throw in there. And it's got flying. It's a very good card. I like it a lot. Sweet. Now let's go into talking about Triskelion. And I was really excited to see this card being reprinted. This card got reprinted in the retail exclusive mystery boosters. They had like 100 and whatever cards that they had reprinted in foil, and Triskelion was one of those cards that got reprinted in foil. And I was really excited to see that because this card actually is a part of a combo piece. One of the combo pieces is Mikaeus. I believe you can run this card in combos with other cards as well, but I personally run this card in my Mikaeus zombie deck. So if you are playing Mikaeus zombies, this is a really great inclusion. And so I would say you're definitely that. I would definitely do that. I feel like this card might combo with other stuff as well. I'm not 100% sure. But if it does, you should definitely run it. But if you're already Mikaeus, I would definitely recommend this because I feel like I built Mikaeus and I didn't know about this combo until after. So I was like, oh, you know, I just want to let y'all Mikaeus players out there know that if you are playing him, or even if you're playing it in, like maybe in one of your commander decks, slot this card in as well because you have your little combo there and your infinite combo and then you just win. So yeah, this is a really cool card to do with that combo piece. So yeah. Cool, let's now talk about this land. This land is Guildless Commons, and as soon as I saw this land, I immediately really loved this land. This is a bounce land, but it is specifically for my vision of the way that this card works is in a monocolored deck, because I had always seen, you know, like the dual colored lands, and I was always like, oh, these bounce lands are really cool, but then I was like, oh man, I really wish that there was a version of this card. There was a version of those cards, but it was colorless, so that, or it was monocolored, and so that you could run it in like other decks. And I believe there are those bounce lands. I remember, I don't know if it's a cycle. I'm not 100% sure. I'm picturing the blue one in my head, but I don't remember if it's a cycle. But I was always like, oh man, it'd be really cool if there was like colorless set. If you're playing monocolored, you could play this. And then they printed this card, and I was so excited about this. And I actually think I have this in all of my monocolored decks. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. And I really enjoy this card a lot. It's a bounce land. One thing I really like about it is you get to bounce anything back. So if you have some sort of specialty lands that say when this land enters the battlefield, you gain a life, or, you know, you draw a card, or like whatever it is, that's really awesome. You can bounce it. And then this land does enter the battlefield tapped, but then it taps for 2 colorless mana. I think if you're playing, I would really recommend this in a monocolored deck. I think if you're playing 2 or more colors, just get the ones that have the specific colors. But if you're playing monocolored, Guildless Commons is a great card and I really enjoy it. And I run it myself. Oh my gosh, this card, I think people don't know how good this card is, and it's super affordable, and that is Archon of Sun's Grace. My only thing with this card is I wish that it was legendary, because I think that would really put this card over the edge. But I think also too, people are like, oh, it makes like Pegi, like that's dumb, and it's like, no, this card is actually really good. So it's Pegasus, creatures who control of lifelink, and it's got Constellation, which is awesome. So whenever an enchantment ETB is under your control, you create a 2/2, and those ones have flying. Yes, they already have flying, and then they get lifelink with this card, which is great. So I would say if you're playing a sort of like enchantment strategy, and like I think this also works really well, is like Paul has this card in Gods, which is like a God tribal deck, and one thing too he can struggle with a little bit in that deck sometimes is like getting his, since it's 5 color, is getting off his making sure he has enough creatures, because when you're running 5 colors and you have devotion, it's like you might have like 3 blue devotion, 3 white devotion, 2 red devotion, you know, whatever, and it's like you're kind of all over the place. And so one thing that's really cool about this card is that that helps him get creatures when he might not necessarily have creatures. So if you're playing constellations, if you're playing enchantments, I think this card is absolutely very strong and definitely a really solid inclusion, because it gets you things, and they have flying and lifelink, which is really great. So again, I feel like people need to take this card seriously because it's actually really good, and this card itself is only 4 mana, and it's also got flying and lifelink, which is really cool. So yeah. I don't know how I've done these videos and actually just never talked about Preordain. And I feel like some people like are not a fan of cards like this, where it's just like they'd rather that continuous effect of like continuously drawing cards. And I totally agree. I love those cards as well. Like there's cards that I run that like, you know, like cards like Phyrexian Arena, for example, that like are constantly on the battlefield. The thing with those cards is sometimes those cards can be actually fairly expensive. And so cards like this are really good, and they're also like, this card's like 1 blue mana, for example. One thing I really enjoy about Preordain is that you do scry 2 first, which I really like, because if you like draw a card first or whatever, I like having the scry so that you can get those cards like if you don't need them or something like that. And I also think too, I don't know if y'all feel this way, but whenever I play Commander, sometimes I'm like, hey, that thing that destroys an enchantment or an artifact, I don't need that right now because that's not relevant to like what's going on the board, and so I want to scry that away to the bottom. So Preordain definitely helps you get there, and it also gets you to draw a card, which is great. Okay, the next card I want to talk about is Rally the Ranks, and this card was printed in, was it Caladium, I think? Yeah, it was. This is a really awesome Anthem card in white. I feel like there's so many great Anthem cards, and as soon as I saw Rally the Ranks, I immediately scooped one up, and I put one in Alila, because it's perfect in Alila, because when you play an enchantment or artifact, you get a 1/1, which is great. And with this, you choose a creature type, and then creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. So if you're playing any sort of tribal deck and you're playing white, I would definitely recommend Rally the Ranks. There's so many good tribal cards. I also actually filmed, which if I remember, I'll list it, but I also filmed in colorless Anthem effects video, and that's one of my favorite videos because there's so many awesome like colorless ones. But this is a really, really, really good one if you're playing like, let's just say mono white, or you're playing this in a Leela or something like that, where you're playing like tribal and you want to buff your things. That's like one of the things I would say is whenever I'm playing like tokens or something like that, I always make sure to have run cards like this, because it's like, yeah, it's really great to have like a 1/1, for example, but having like 5 1/1s compared to like 5 2/2s, that can really put you over the edge, and really great for attackers and blockers. This card's awesome, and it's very affordable. I absolutely love Imposing Sovereign, and I don't feel like this card gets enough attention because it's only ever been printed a total of 1 time in M14, and I feel like sometimes M14 cards and like those M sets just kind of like fly under the radar, because a lot of times they have just really great cards. This is a really great Death and Taxes card. It's very simple. It is 2 mana, creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. It's a very simple, like we've seen cards like this plenty of times, but this is a really great just like sort of like, I'm just going to stop my opponents from doing things. It's a really great Death and Taxes card, super cheap. I feel like sometimes some Death and Taxes cards can be either like really expensive or really affordable, and this is a really great affordable option. I really like it a lot. Okay, now let's chat about Victory's Herald, and I love this card so much. And also too, I ended up getting this card signed by RK Post. And it was so funny because when we were like just like chatting about it, and when I met him in Magic Fest Austin, and he was like, it's so funny, he's like, I don't see a lot of this card, and I'm like, yeah, I run this card in my Angels deck or like whatever, and this card is awesome. I 1000% would recommend this card, and I feel like this is one of those cards that really like goes under the radar, because whenever it attacks, all attacking creatures get flying and lifelink until end of turn. This is like such a good like inclusion in like Angels, Tribal, like I have this in Avacyn. This is really great in like Kalia, for example. I think the thing that stops a lot of people is like the triple white, honestly. So I'd be cautious about where else you would run it. I mean, in Kalia, it's fine because you just, you know, you pump it out with Kalia for free and you don't have to worry about that. But, this card is so good. I also think, too, if you're playing this, like, let's just say you're playing a deck where you're running a lot of, like, cards that are very cheap in terms of, like, mana cost. Victory's Herald is a really good thing that's, like, very expensive mana-wise, but it's so worth it to me. I just really enjoy this card. And it's a 4/4 flyer, which is a really nice body, so this card's awesome. Okay, let's talk now about the crystal cards, and the ones I'm talking about are this set from Ikoria, I believe, and these cards are extremely simple, but I like them. I feel like with a lot of these cards there's a lot of mana rocks and ramp that I really like that is a little bit more expensive. However, if you're on a budget, you're watching this video, these cards definitely get the job done. They add those colors to your pool. Like if you're building like a tricolor deck on a budget, totally include this card. These cards are like 10 cents. You can get the foil for like 20 cents if that's your jam. And then it's also got cycling. So let's just say you draw this at later points in the game. You can just go ahead and discard it. And you can go ahead and draw a card, which is really great. So I like that little bit of flexibility here. There's definitely cards like I myself personally run over this. However, if you're on a budget, this is definitely a really great option. And the last card, I love this card so much. That is Angel of the Dire Hour. And this card is a house. It is 7 mana for a 5/4 with flash and flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, you exile all attacking creatures. You can blow somebody out of the water with this when they are like, attack with all my things. Like, honestly, it's one of my favorite things is like when someone is like, I'm playing Avacyn, and then they were like, I'm gonna attack with all my things, like, what are you gonna do? And then I'm like, instant speed, because like, you know, a lot of the board types that I run in my deck are like sorceries, like, you know, that blow up the board or whatever, and it's like, what are you gonna do? And then it's like, Angel of the Dire Hour, and then you like exile their things, and then you have this body, and you have all your other creatures, and then you can just swing and just so easily kill someone. Like, I think this card is awesome. And I feel like the thing, too, to know is this card is 7 mana, which can be a lot, but honestly, you can just so easily get rid of an opponent's board with this card and just absolutely set them back. So I love this card so much. I have it in Angels, and it is just such a house. This card is absolutely awesome. And, yeah, I like it a lot. So guys, that is everything. That is it for 10 more cards that are under $1. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know in the comments below what are some of your favorite budget cards for Commander, and maybe those will be featured in a future part. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. It helps me out a lot. And yeah, that's everything. I'll catch you guys in the next one.